All right, so guys, let's start. Now, today's lecture, we will discuss about two important things. One is further concepts of user management. Okay, yesterday I left it half. I covered yesterday half, and rest half is left incomplete, which I'll try to cover it today. Then we will go with groups. That will be a proper approach, right? Because directly taking groups without complete idea of user management is not a good planning. That's what I thought. So let me cover up the other part of user management and then we'll look at groups. So yesterday's lecture we saw how to create users, correct? But now see what happens, I'll tell you. Right now I've logged in as EC2 user, which is the current root user using which I've logged in. Then what I did yesterday is I used sudo user add, and then I gave the username. Let's give the username as Mike. Then I did sudo passwd. The password for Mike, I gave some password. I gave some password. Okay. Now, after giving this particular password, okay, the username and password, one user got created. But now, in order this user to log in, see, we will definitely not do a switch user Mike. This is not the way basically I will be doing it. Now, what I want is once I create this username and password from another system, this user Mike should be able to log into Linux without even the PEM file. Right now, what I've done, I firstly used a PEM file. I used a PEM file. I logged in as a root user, EC2 user. Then I created Mike and I just did switch user. But see, what will happen? This is not the way to log in. I cannot share my PEM file with everyone and tell them to do this. Correct? Right now, I have PEM file. I did this. I did switch user. I could change the user account. And then after that, I can also what? Exit. But I want the users to log into Linux directly with their username and password. Did you understand the concept? Yes, everyone. Firstly, understand the use case. So, what I want to do is I'll create multiple users, and this user will not log in with your key pair, which is nothing but what? The PEM file. The .pem file that I'm using it, I will not use that. I'll create a user, and this user should be able to log in with his username and password. With his username and password, he should be able to log in. Point one. Point number two, the EC2 user. The EC2 user by default is a root user, or we will call that as sudo user. What do you mean by sudo? Okay, super user do. Is this clear? Now the user that I am creating, I also want that user to be a sudo user. I want to create another user account and I want to make that user account also as a sudo user. How do I do all of these things? So we will now basically look at the practicals where the user accounts are created. Then I will make those user accounts as a sudo users. Then I will grant a permission wherein password based authentication will work for them, and from any system they can connect to Linux. Even you can connect to my Linux system. Provided I give you the username and password, from your laptops, you should be able to connect. You don't require a PEM file to connect with the server now. Okay, let's see this, how to do it. Now, in order to do this, guys, see, there are two important things we need to keep it in mind. The first file we will modify is sudoers file. Sudoers file is the one where we specify which user what permissions does he have. Got it? So there is one file. Using that file, I can give the sudo permissions, which means admin rights I can give it to that user. So opening that file, we will modify certain things in that file. Upon modifying certain things in that file now, automatically that user will become a sudo user. See here, the sudoers file controls which user can execute commands as super users, because certain commands cannot be executed without the super users basically what control. The user who has got a super user control, he can execute certain command. Example, let's see this here. User add. Now let me add another user add. Let me add another user. Okay, we'll go with Stalin. Fine. What do I get here now? Permissions denied, right? Now when I use this sudo, see, when I logged in as EC2 user, now the permission to this user should be there to use this sudo command. If that user does not have this permission to use sudo command, he will not be able to run this command as a sudo user, because certain commands can be executed only with administrative rights. One who has admin rights, he can only run those commands. When I use the word admin, it's very familiar with Windows operating system, but I'm still using this word for students to understand me in layman terms. So that user should have admin rights, and the user who has an admin rights, when he uses sudo, it will work for him. But all the other users using sudo will not work for them. Is this clear, everyone, now? So sudo user add Stalin, and we will now do sudo PASSWD. Okay, we are setting up the password for whom? Stalin. So let us set the password. So what did we understand here? What did we understand here? That until and unless I use sudo, this is not getting executed. But in order to use sudo, this particular user should have those control, those permissions in order to do this. Got it? So by default, the user that got created, when I launched this EC2 instance, the user that got created by default, the user that got created by default when I launched this EC2 instance, that user is a sudo user. But the users that I'm creating now, Mike and Stalin, they are not sudo users. But I want to give them the sudo permissions so that they can execute those commands where the word sudo needs to be used, and it should work for them. How do I do this now? So this is where we are now looking at is the sudoers file. The sudoers file is a file in your Linux operating system wherein upon modifying that file, it will give the sudo controls to what? Basically the super users control basically to the user. The word sounds very horrible, sudo, right? Yes or no? Correct? पता नहीं, अच्छा नाम भी दे सकता था, राइट? चलो सूडो बोल के नाम दे दिया, सूडो, सूडो, सूडो। ये कन्नड़ा में अलग मीनिंग होता है, सूडो मतलब जला। इन कन्नड़ा सूडो इज व्हाट? नॉट, हाँ, फायर। सूडो, सूडो मतलब बर्न, हाँ, बर्न, सूडो, right? That is the meaning in Kannada. Anyways, now let's go to this our sudo file. Okay, so how do we go to this sudo file now? In order to modify this sudo file, all you need to do is just type sudo, which means again to open this file also you should have sudo. Basically you should be a super user. Only a super user can open this file. If you're not a super user, you can't even open this file. Did you understand this now? What am I telling you? Yes? He says instead of sudo, ludo is better. Prabhakar Kumar, right? Okay. नाउ इंटरव्यू में वो लूडो लूडो ही होने वाला है जब आंसर नहीं दोगे, राइट? क्योंकि लूडो में क्या होगा, यू नो, दे विल आस्क अ क्वेश्चन, यू विल राइट डाउन ऑन द लूडो डाइस, यू विल थ्रो जय श्री राम, जो नंबर आया ऑप्शन सेलेक्ट कर लो। तो समझ गया अभी ये लूडो क्यों बोल रहा है, बिकॉज अभी तक का इंटरव्यू इसका लूडो टाइप था। रबर पे 1 2 3 4 लिखो, जय श्री राम, जो नंबर आया टिक करो। इंजीनियरिंग अभी तक हो गया है कंप्लीट। Okay, anyways, let's continue further. So now there is a file called as sudoers file. Now that sudoers files also to open, the user should be having he should be, the user should be what? Super user. So I'm writing a sudo, and then after I'm going to give the file name. What's the file name? The file name, guys, that I need to open here, the file name that I need to open here will be vi sudo, right? Sudo vi sudo. Do this, and the file opens up. Is this clear? I'm not opening up this file in VI editor. Be careful. Okay, this is not opened up in a VI editor. This file got opened up just by typing sudo vi sudo. So saving this file is slightly different. Carefully observe. Now here, just move the cursor down. Move the cursor down. Okay, just somewhere we'll click it and move the cursor down. Okay. Now when you move the cursor down, you know, one horrible thing is you can't even see where the cursor is, right? But keep moving the cursor down slowly, because cursor कहाँ पे, जैसे जैसे डाउन बटन क्लिक कर रहा हूँ लाइन ऊपर जा रहा है, तो वहां पे अपना assumption है cursor वहां पे है. ठीक है? So be careful about it, right? So now when you keep moving the cursor down, you will see here somewhere you will see here root all is equal to all. Now this is how they says allow root to run any commands. What is root here? EC2 user. One user that got created first. The first user that got created when I launched EC2 machine, that user is a root user. But now I want to make Mike as basically your sudo user. So what I will do now, the cursor was here. I'm just moving it up blindly. And now I'm going to type here the user Mike. Okay, I want to make this user Mike all. Give him all the rights. Now you'll write all colon all. And then after that you'll give a space and write all. Did you understand? Right? How we will give him all the rights? Mike all equals all colon all. ओके सोते सोते 10 बार इसको याद कर लेना, अपने आप नेक्स्ट डे मॉर्निंग याद आ जाएगा. ठीक है? इज दिस क्लियर? वरना ये काम करो, अपने को फॉरवर्ड मैसेजेस आता है ना, ये 10 लोगों को फॉरवर्ड करो, जॉब लग जाएगी. एक काम करो, मैसेज 10 लोगों को फॉरवर्ड करते जो व्हाट्सएप में, ऑटोमेटिकली याद आ जाएगा. ठीक है? इज दिस क्लियर? इफ यू वांट टू इरिटेट समवन, टाइप योर लिनक्स कमांड एंड सेंड इट ऑन व्हाट्सएप टू अदर पीपल. प्रैक्टिस भी हो जाएगा विदाउट सिस्टम. एनीवेज, नाउ आई वांट टू एग्जिट दिस फाइल. Guys, did you understand now? I opened this file sudo vi sudo. After opening up, I went here, I added this line. Now, how do I quit this particular thing? So, Control X, Y, Enter. पूरा हाथ ट्विस्ट हो जाएगा. Control plus X plus Y और Enter. X एक जगह पे, Y एक जगह पे, Control एक जगह पे, Enter एक जगह पे. Is this clear, everyone? Now you have to exit like that. That's what I said. This is not a VI editor. Control plus X plus Y plus what? Enter. And now you notice this particular file that I'm talking about now, the permissions for Mike has been set basically as what? A super user. Sir, what if another user I want to set? Again, let's do it. VI. Come on, you help me this time. Sudo. Then after that, what you will do? Take your cursor down. Okay, take your cursor down. Now slowly, keep moving, slowly keep moving. Now you will see here we have already set the permissions for Mike. The permissions for Mike as a sudo user. Now here is where I will set the next permission. Is this clear? What is the next fellow now? Stalin. So Stalin is the user. Stalin is the user. Okay. And now I'm going to give here all equals, and then after that what? All colon all. And then after that all. How do we save this? Control X, Y, Enter. Did you understand this now? Now by doing this, what has happened is two users that I created now, I've given them the control of super users. So those commands which requires a super user access, these two users, they have got it. I hope this part is clear for all of the students. Now, let's move ahead further. Now, the next thing we people are going to look at, that the sudo's file control, which users can execute the commands as super users. That has been done. Okay, so I've added the files like this. Now, the second thing is, the whole target here was making the user an admin user, so that he can run those commands as an admin. Even in Windows, there are certain things, you know, if you want to run something, Okay, you can run that particular tool as an admin. Right click, and you can see here somewhere an option you will see here, run as administrator. If you observe here, can you see that here now? So now when I've logged into your Windows operating system, because in Windows also I can create different accounts. I can create a root account, I can create an admin account, I can create a user account. The user account cannot run as admin, but as an admin I can do this. Okay, so it's something like this. Now let's continue further. Now the second thing what I want to do is enable the password. Now how to enable the password? So there is one file called as sshd underscore config file in this particular path. This file is already present. Now we need to modify this file. There is password authentication set to no. By default, the password authentication is set to no. But now if I set that to yes, automatically what will happen now? Your file will get the permission. Okay. To now, once the file is updated, this file will update the permissions for the user to log in with their usernames and password. Got it? So this is the file which enables password authentication. By default, password authentication for the users that you created is not there. Whatever users you created now, by default, password authentication for those users is not there. Is this clear? Yeah, that's the reason yesterday we were looking at switch user and I was showing you that. Is this clear? But now I want to enable login from your systems to Linux with usernames and password. So how do I now open this file? So again, you require a super user to do this. Okay, sudo. Then after that, what? What is that? Huh? VI. So we are opening up this in Visual Editor. We know how to edit the things in Visual Editor now. Slash. There is a folder slash etc. Inside that there is a folder ssh. Inside that there is a file called as sshd underscore config. Is this clear? See this? There's a file called as sshd underscore config. Now you know the magic of VI editor. What it does? If the file is present, it will open the file. File is not, it will create the file. This file is there. So it opens the file in VI editor. Is this clear? Now which command am I into? I'm in which mode? Sorry. Which mode I'm in? Command mode. Yes or no? Now I'll go to insert mode. And then after search for. Again here, keep scrolling down. Somewhere you will see the word password no. Keep searching for that. Keep searching for that. Can you see that here? Password authentication is what? No. So now I need to make this particular password authentication as what? Yes. So let's change this to what? Yes. Okay. So this password authentication, which was no, it was not allowing to log in as a user with username and password. I'm enabling that. Now escape mode and then colon, save and quit. Is this clear everyone now? Everybody got it now? What I did? Now that we have basically logged in as EC2 user, I will now exit. You see that? I'm out of the system. I've logged out. Now I will log into the system as these users. Let's try to do that. Okay. So what I will do is now, I will firstly go to my EC2 instance. Right? Now this EC2 instance has a public IP address. IP address will help us to locate the machines uniquely. It is like the building number. In layman terms, it's like the building number. This building has building number 6. So people can locate this easily. Same way, all these devices basically that we have it now, they have an IP address. So that the system that I'm using has an IP address right now, and the system which is using an IP address. So whatever data I'm transferring from my system to his system, it is the sender IP address and the receiver IP address. Receiver IP address is the destination. Like when you send a postcard, you will write on from address, then you will write on to address. That to address is IP address and from address is IP address. That's how we get to know on the network how the data should travel from point A to point B. Now again, there are IP addresses concepts. I will talk about that IPv4, IPv6 bit later. Is this clear everyone now? Now, let's basically take this public IP address. Now this public IP address will keep changing. This is not fixed. If you shut down if you basically restart your EC2 instance, this IP address will change. How to make this IP address fixed, we will see later. As of now, system is on, use this IP address. Tomorrow you shut down the system and restart, use this IP address to connect, it will not work. Is this clear? So if I shut down, this IP address will change. Okay. Now let's go back here. Let's go back here. Now I will use SSH, right? What is the username? Mike at the rate. You will give here the IP address. Enter. What is it now doing? Do you want to connect? Yes. And then I connected now basically as what? Right. I hope this part is clear for all of you. Yes. No, I did not connect with this actually this way. Cannot establish the connection. Right. So are you sure you want to connect? Yes. Permanently. Permissions denied. There is some problem that has happened here. Let's see this here once again. So let me basically check this out here, right? Because it should allow me to log in, right? So let's right click, let's go to git bash here, and let's see the command. Okay. So it is SSH Alice and the public key. That is what I've given here, right? Let's see this here. Now the user happens to be what? Okay, I did one mistake here. Now this mistake will make you also to remember the things. After modifying your, okay, SSH config file, I have to restart, okay, certain services to accept that modification. I missed that particular step. Okay. Now because I missed this step, you will always remember that this is what needs to be done. See, I will again have to go back. I'll have to again go back and log in. You need not use chmod again. Chmod, once you execute it, that's enough. Directly you can run this particular command and now you're connected. Now what I should have done, see, very important step, I made a note of it. After modifying it, restart the SSH service. Now if you don't restart your SSH service, this changes done will not get loaded. Now how do you restart SSH service? So in order to restart the SSH service, you have to use sudo systemctl restart what? You have to restart here what? SSHD service. Are you understanding now? This services needs to be restarted, which I did not do it. I hope this part is clear now. So this step, if you do not do it, modifications done in that file will not be, basically it will not get loaded into this SSHD service. SSHD is a service because it's providing me a service to connect my git bash with a Linux machine. Correct? So that's the meaning of service. Are you understanding now? Now how this git bash is able to connect with Linux? Because in the Linux operating system, there is one SSHD service that is running, and this SSHD service will let you to get connected from the client, like, okay, putty, or it is basically your git bash, or it is moba right? All of these things. Are you understanding now? Everyone clear with this? Different tools. Now see this here. Let me perform an exit. Fine. Now after I restarted, okay, this service, let's give a try now. So let me clear, and now I will use the IP address which is here. Let's try. Let's type here now. Let's type here SSH. What's the username? Mike at the rate. Paste this here. Enter. See, now it is asking me the password. Did you understand that now? I've logged in. I've logged in as what now? Mike. Now, if I give this username and password to any person with this IP address, he can connect to Linux remotely from the system. Using what? Git bash. Is this clear? Everyone, I'll send the PDF, Baba. I'll send the PDF. Hold on. I've seen your messages. आप एक मैसेज डालोगे, 10 मैसेज डालोगे, PDF जब आना है तभी आएगा. राइट? टाइम नहीं मिल रहा है, सारा मैं क्लब करके देता हूँ अच्छे से. थोड़ा सा टाइम की कमी है, देता हूँ मैं. वेट करो. ओके? तब तक यही देख के कमेंट्स लिख लिया करो. वीडियो पॉज करो, कमेंट्स लिख लो. Is this clear, everyone? Now see, which is a present working directory now? Any guess? It will not be now EC2. Now it will be what? Mike. Is this clear? Let's perform an exit. And now let's do one thing. Let's clear the screen. Let's add one more. Let's now log in as SSH. What is the another user here now? Stalin at the rate IP address. So this IP address. Let me copy the IP address from here. So you see here, copy this IP address, paste this here. Got it? So I'm not using PEM file. I'm using the IP addresses using which publicly I can connect to that system. And this user has some password that's been given. Is this clear? Everyone got it now? Now, what is your current working directory? Stalin. Okay. So this is where, okay, a multiple user accounts can be created by you people, and multiple people can access your Linux system. Because when you're working on the project, it might be the team working on the same, your Linux servers, and different people might have to log in with different credentials. Got it? The root user, we will use the PEM file, but the other users that we are creating now, we can go with the username and password authentication system like this. Okay, now let's continue further. Is this part clear? Online students, please do let me know. Are you clear with this, guys? Online students, did you understand this now? Yes? Yes? Did you observe one thing? The things are so fast when we are going with commands. Do you see the performance things now? When I'm using the commands, things are so fast. Yes or no? Now you will get more handy with it. Right? You'll get more handy with these commands when you keep practicing it. Okay, let me perform an exit now. Now, Roger that. ये कोई वेब सीरीज देखा है कल, राइट? अब वो 2-3 दिन तक वो वेब सीरीज वाला ही आता रहेगा दिमाग में. राइट, नाउ लेट्स कंटिन्यू फर्दर. नहीं, ओके, नहीं देखा है, ठीक है, नो प्रॉब्लम. एनीवेज, लेट्स नाउ लॉग इन. नाउ व्हाट वी विल डू is we will have a look at next part. Now, what is the next part? We will look at the concept of groups. Okay, let's understand the groups concept in a bit detailed manner, and some small corrections yesterday, what information I gave it now. The last information that I gave, somewhere I ended up giving a wrong information basically without analyzing it. Okay, so somewhere I don't want to pass even a single information which is wrong, but where is what wrong thing I informed, I will quickly correct that one. Is this clear? Firstly, let's understand what is groups. Okay, so whenever I have multiple users, let's say I have here user 1, user 2, user 3, and user 4. Okay, now all these users are working for one particular team, right? One particular team. Fine. So there is one team in which all these users are working. Now I want to set some permissions on this user. Okay, now why I want to set the permissions to the user? Because see, one is I can set the permission on this user separately. On this user I can set the permission separately. This user you can set the permission separately. Permission means, right, who can do what on the required operating system. In layman terms, who can do what? Who can basically interact with that file in what manner? Who can perform a read operation, write operation, right? All of these things that I'm talking about, reading, writing, accessing it, who can do it? Who can modify those files? Who has only read access? Who has read, write, okay, and all the other permissions been given? I want to put these permissions on the user. First problem is this. Understand the problem. Problem number one is, if I create individual users, I have to give individual permissions on that. This is one challenge. The second challenge is, see, whenever you're working on a project, there will be a shared folder. Okay, there will be a shared folder. Okay, so how do I now basically create a shared working directory, and that working directory is accessible by all these people, right? These are the two challenges that we have. It one challenge I explained yesterday already. What was that? If you want to put the permission all these users, just create one group. Just create one group that is called as what? Team. Let's create one group that is called as what? Team. So let's write here the group that is called as what? Team. Is this clear now? Now what I will do is, whatever users I've created now, I'll just add those users to this particular group. And now I can set the permissions on the group. Now when I set the permissions at the group level, all the users in that group automatically has those permissions. Fine. This is the first advantage which I explained yesterday very clearly. The second advantage of group is, now let's say I created a group, and to this particular group now I will associate one particular folder. I'll create one particular folder, and what I will do is, now I will associate that particular folder to this particular group. Is this clear? Did you understand what I said now? Right? I will create one folder and I will make this as a common folder accessible by all these people. Correct? So that now this file, this person, this person, this person, this person, everybody are working on the common folder. Correct? Which means this is acting like a shared workspace. This is acting like a shared workspace. Okay, so how do I basically create a workspace and share it among all the users? So for that, we will have to go with a concept called as groups. So the purpose of groups is you can firstly divide your team members in your project. Which team, what permissions they have, this will vary. Correct? A developer might have a different permission. A DevOps engineer might have a different permission on your Linux operating system. Some other person, okay, let's say is an administrator, okay, of this particular, server, he's an administrator, then he might have a different permission. There are different users, they have different permissions, they have different roles to play in the project. Correct? So when I create a group, in that group I'm going to add the users and I can set the permission on the group. So all that users by default will have the same group. Let's say after 5 days one more DevOps engineer joined my company. I will just create a user and I will add him to the group. Automatically he will get those permissions what a DevOps engineer is supposed to have. Got it? I might create day after tomorrow, one more fellow joined who is a developer. So what I will do now, I'll take that developer, add him to a group called as developers. Now there's already a permission set on the group and that user added to the developers group, already there's a permission that only these many things he can do it in this operating system and other things is not able to do it. Is this clear everyone now? Right? So this is where the concept of groups is, okay, that will come into picture. So the next important thing, understand here. The next important thing is now, see, whenever you create a group, right? Whenever you create a group, okay, whenever you create a user, not group, when a user is created. See, I created one user. Let's say I created one user called as Mike. When the user Mike is created, by default, one private group will get created for him. What will get created for him? One private group. Okay, and that private group name will be called as Mike. Got it? So this is by default for every user, one private group has been created. Is this clear everyone now? Now why this private group is created? What is the purpose of it? See, one thing is I will create a group, I will add the users into it. I will set the permission. I'll create a group, I'll create one shared working directory in which all these users can work. Which means if I make the changes, you can see it. If you make the changes, I can see it. That is one group which I will create it. Correct? Which is called as basically a secondary group. Which is called as what? A secondary group. Secondary group is that is created after your primary group. Now, what is primary group here? Primary group is nothing but the group that automatically gets created when the user Mike was created. When you created this user Mike, you can see there automatically a group Mike was created. Now let's try to do a bit of understanding and exploration on it now. I've already created a user Mike, correct? I want to see which group this Mike is added to. Moment I do that, you can see that. Now yesterday what I did, I just saw this 1001 and I gave you wrong information. This is what I said. At the end, I ended the class telling that some permissions on this. I did not observe that properly, but this is nothing but the group ID. I'm correcting that now. Please understand this now. So every group that you create now, it has a unique group ID. Is this clear? Every group that you're creating now, there is a unique group ID. There is a unique user ID. Every user that you create now, that will have a unique, okay, basically user ID. What is the user ID here? What is the group ID here? And which all groups basically is associated with. Let's understand this in a more detailed manner now. So whenever you create a user, what will happen now? Automatically for that user, one default primary group is created, or I would say it's a default private group is created. Now we need to understand what you mean by this word private and why this group is created by default. Got it? We will explore this particular thing. Same way, if I now see ID EC2 hyphen user, correct? Now, which all groups this fellow is added to now? He is the root. He is added to how many groups? Can you see that here? How many groups he's been added to? He's been added to how many groups here? EC2 user. Then he's added to what? ADM group. He's added to what? Wheel group. He has added to what? System general group. Sir, why these many groups are added to? Let's understand this here now. Who is EC2 user? Who is EC2 user? Huh? Root user. Let's understand this one by one. Okay. Now I have this EC2 user. This EC2 user, let me type here. I have this. क्या हो गया? हाँ अभी रुक जाओ. Right. Now I have here basically an EC2 user. Okay. So this is our EC2 hyphen user. Okay. Now this EC2 user when got created, by default one group will get created. What is that group called as? What is that group called as? EC2 hyphen user. With the same username one group is created. Why it is created? We will understand that. Second, if you notice this EC2 user, he is added to other groups as well. He's added to other groups as well. What is the next group here? 4 ADM. He's added to group called as what? ADM. 4 there is the group ID. 4 there is a group ID. I will just take the group name right now. Which is the another group it is been added to? ADM. What is the another group it is added to? Wheel. There is one more group basically he's been added to which is called as what? Wheel. Which has been added what? Wheel. There is another group basically he's been added to, right? Which is system what? Journal, right? So there is another group he's been added to which is system MD journal. Here, let's add here. System D, what is that? Journal. Now, what is happening? See, when a user is added to so many groups, every group is providing some permissions. Now, when this EC2 user is added to ADM group, this ADM group is giving some permissions to this EC2 user because of which some task he can do. What is that task? What permissions he is getting it when I add that user to ADM? Got it everyone now? Okay, for example, there is a, basically let's say there is a commissioner. Okay, there are all constables out there now. Now constables basically what they have certain groups. When you go to the police station, there are certain groups. Now the groups is like, there is crime branch. Got it? There are some civil issues to manage. There is another department. Traffic police, another department. So here I can say crime branch here is one group. Correct? Now all the constables added to crime branch, now, basically what is happening? They have same set of permissions. All constables have the same rules and regulations. Do you agree with that now? So here, what am I talking about? The crime branch, under that the constables are the users, and the crime branch here happens to be what? The group. And that group has set up permissions on them. Is this clear? But now, inside this crime branch, there is one constable, very smart constable, who is like basically I can say Rajnikant. Okay, he is multi-talented like that Robo movie. He can also be a lover boy, he can also be a cook, he can also basically be a teacher, he can also be a doctor. Right? So he is basically a kind of Mahapurush in that movie. Now what happens, I'll tell you, because this one constable, okay, he can do a lot of things, I will give him more permission. I will now tell this constable that, okay, see, you can work in crime branch. When traffic police constable is not there, I will also add you to the traffic thing, because you know the rules and regulations of what? Traffic. You have the permissions now that you can also tear a challan when a person breaks the signal. So how many groups this constable is added into now? One is crime branch, another one is added to what? Traffic police. So now he has got an authority of two things. He can also catch hold of a criminal who is doing robbery, which is crime branch. If anybody jumps the signal, he can still tear a challan because he's added to multiple groups and he has got multiple permissions. Did you understand now? Did you understand why there are multiple groups that is being added up? Yes or no? Please tell me. Online people, did you understand this? Please do let me know. Did you understand what I said here? If this analogy is clear, we will further explore these things now. So one user when is added to multiple groups, every group is giving him some control, some permissions. What are those permissions here? Let's understand here. The permissions here is something like this. The permissions here happens to be something like this now. See, the ID 1000 EC2 user is the primary group. I'll come to that later. But now, when the user is added to ADM group, the ADM group will allow to access administrative logs. Now, what is this logs? See, what happens, I'll tell you. This administrative logs that I'm talking about, basically, logs are what? Logs are generated when there is some failure. Many times Windows operating system crashes. When it crashes, what do you see on the screen? Error, hard disk crashed. Correct, that's a log for me. That's a system log for me. Did you understand this now? Right? These logs will help us to understand the errors in your servers. These logs will help us to understand the errors in your application that is running. But can I give this permission for everyone to access the log? Only restricted users should have the access to permission to access this log. So when a user is added to ADM group, they're telling that I'll give you access to logs. And using these logs, you can check which user logged into the system when, how many times is user logged in, when all he logged in. These all permissions basically is getting it. Is this clear? I can see system logs, means is my server running properly, any errors happened, okay, it will keep telling me all these details. Same way I can check the application. So there are certain logs in general. We need not worry about that much. That's not our area, but ADM is clear. Everybody clear now? The second one is basically wheel. Wheel means what? Right? Wheel मतलब वो वाला wheel नहीं जो आप सोच रहे हो. Wheel powder नहीं. ओके, जो कि आदमी खड़ा रहता है और सडन से आता है और वो मेले कपड़े वाइट हो जाता है. वो वाला व्हील के बारे में हम नहीं बात कर रहे कि अभी ये बंदा कपड़े भी धो सकता है. That's not the access right. What am I telling is, when he's added to wheel, it will grants administrative privileges such as ability to use sudo. Did you understand now? The sudo command to use. So when I created a root user, he's added to a group called wheel, and who's added to the group called wheel, automatically he's a sudo user. Did you understand? Did you get this now? He gets the sudo privileges. And the last one, system general, that is also accessing log, but that's a more modern way of doing it. Earlier, we were using only ADM group. Later, in many other operating systems, they came up with one more group using which log accessing, they made it much better. That's why our EC2 user, if you now notice when I type ID and which all groups basically our EC2 user belongs to, if you notice here, it's given the groups. It is his own private group. I'll talk about private group later. But there are other groups that basically is being added up, and every group is giving him some superpowers to access certain things. Every group added their superpower. Is this clear, everyone now? Samjhe everyone? Okay. So this is how basically it is going to work. Now, we will also see these are all the default groups in which basically your EC2 user has been added up. But now what I want to do is, I want to create my own group. In that, I want to add my users. In that, I want to create one shared folder. And that shared folder, I want to make it accessible by all the people in that group. Did you understand? What is the activity I want to do it now? First, we have to explore the commands about groups. After we explore the commands about the groups, now, what we need to do now? Create a group. Add the users to the group. After adding the users to the group, what is the next thing you will do? You will now create one shared folder attached to that particular group. Now, when you create a shared folder and attach to the group, all that people in the group should be able to access that particular shared folder. If fellow 1 is creating a file, fellow 2 should be able to see that file. Did you understand? Everyone? Yes, clear with this? आज के लिए बहुत ज़्यादा हो गया. क्या बोलते हो? Yes, इतना प्रैक्टिस करके आ जाओगे? कल हम ग्रुप्स पूरा एक्सप्लोर कर लेंगे. ठीक है? With all the commands of everything, groups, everything, we will see that tomorrow. Today's class was clear, all of you? Yes? Okay. So now group ID, UID, group ID, and the group names. Got it? That is what basically it is all about. we have talked about today and the purpose of groups. Tomorrow will be practicals of groups. We will create a group and we will execute the commands. इतना practice करके कल आना, ठीक है? Bye guys, take care.